I'm Anna.
I'm Ben.
We're AutoSave. Welcome to our channel.
Today we're watching Frieren Beyond Journey's End, Season 1, Episode 20. I think we might see some fighting this episode. I know I'm coming out of left field suggesting that.
It's crazy,
not every episode needs fights. Not every episode is at anything close to a fight. But I'm going to take a shot in the dark and say that there might be a fight.
It's a really crazy take you have there.
Yeah, I know. But
sometimes you just gotta shoot your shot like that.
Maybe I'm just a great prognosticator. Ready?
Yep.
Sweet.
Oh, we're chopping down trees.
I was right.
Look at that smug face.
What in the fuck?
So he's just putting up little like
Can't
shields.
see its trajectory.
She's the one that has the bird.
Devoid of character, yep. Just the speed of it.
An absurd feat of strength. Not even phased.
Oh!
My current theory is that she's not dead.
This song is healing. It heals me. It has healing properties.
Does it feel weird at all to watch this kind of healing intro when you know that like imminent danger and fighting and death is at hand? Okay.
I love this show so much.
There's so many anime out there specifically that are like wondrous pieces of art. Worlds that you want to get lost in even if you've already gotten lost in it before and you're on a rewatch. Do you miss Stark?
A little bit, but I'm just happy to be here. Necessary killing.
I'm happy to be here.
Go. This is very similar to what Frieren used, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's not on birds.
Can't control mana either. Because he didn't want to. He's underhanded.
Does he not know the bird one?
He just has to see them.
Wow.
It's like showing his cards. Like, I could kill you, but I don't want to. Does he not like stealing? He looked away from her. Okay, the bird's alive, thank goodness.
Interesting. Wow.
So they can't see you. He doesn't like people like that.
Necessary killing. Okay.
Yes! Story time.
Wow.
He's obviously the main character in that shot. Commonplace in the far north. The pause there. Still want to remain human.
必要な殺しは全部やってきたぜ。じゃあな、ジョーちゃん。動かないでください。全く気配はしなかった。驚いたぜ。魔力を完全に消せんのか。
And he can't take his eyes off of Val.
を捉えたのはお前だな。
その子は鳥を捕まえる魔法を師匠から教わった。
あいつはどうした？
殺しました。
The Twitch.
第一次試験の合格条件は今日の日没までにシュティレを保有している。
All of your party members present. I feel like Fern didn't actually kill her. Come on.
俺たちの負けだな。聞かせてもらうぜ。
We lied to him.
もう不要な殺しだ。じゃあな。
He kills people he has to.
背中を狙ったって構わないぜ。
嘘上手じゃん。
Yeah, she lied.
ランド様の援護に向かいましょう。
I want to see how that fight's going.
あのメガネくん。
The
Quite the
Pretender.
We see a little bit of this in the intro.
He's pretending.
Why would you think that?
Oh no, your attack. It's like maybe he gets them to show all their cards first.
Turn the petals into metal. I'll probably win.
Because he pretended which arm was his dominant one?
Oh! Clones? What? Illusions? What the fuck? Illusion magic. I love it.
What the hell?
Whew. Wow. That's been a while.
Doesn't trust other people.
何が殺し
Killed her butt ass.
平然と嘘つきやがって。
God, I love Frieren with all of my heart.
おい、起きろエレ。魔法学校の首席だろ。
He's gonna have to carry both of his teammates.
攻撃魔法の物量で押し切られたわ。信じてないでしょ。
いいや。
Oh my god! Jesus!
だが一般攻撃魔法だけでこれほどの芸当ができるとしたら。
Alone.
あの女はそう。
One
Nasty
nasty monster.
monster.
シャルフと合流する。
待ってよ。
Carry her like in the intro. Yes.
Were you envisioning something more,
Yeah. More sweet.
There you go.
This is cute. I like it.
Why do I love every character that's been introduced in this universe?
おいシャルフ、エレを運ぶの手伝って。ビアベル。
Oh my god, we're both like a dad.
Aw.
I love it.
結界の外で雨が降り始めたんだ。まるで俺の今の心境だ。
It's like my current
God,
mental
it really
state.
does look like Flom's barrier, huh?
こんな状況じゃシュティレはもう奪えねえ。俺たちの不合格。
Only chance is catching your own at this point.
その優しさがあなたが魔族と戦う理由なのかしら。
Whoa. What?
あなたは私の村も救ってくれたわ。
バカが。俺の場合は下心だ。
Hmm.
故郷に好きなやつがいたんだよ。
クソったれな魔族どもは俺が全員ぶっ殺してやる。だからその時はこの村に帰ってこい。
4つか
The tears.
5つのガキの頃の話だ。
バカみたいね。
I love him. I bet he, Mel, and him would get along.
帰ろうかな。俺船酔いひで。
一級魔法使いだから陸路で。ね、ビアベル。あれ
A still? Yes, please. I want them to pass. Cause he saw it. Cause he saw it.
Wow.
Yes. Okay. Well, now you have to protect it until sundown.
リレン、あの子さっきから何もしてこないけど。
I only thought we were gonna get one side of the fights, but this I'm a little more scared of.
優秀な魔法使いだな。
Whoa.
結界の中は雨でも快適だな。
そういえば第二次試験の試験官はお前だった？
Sense.
今回も有望な受験者を何人も死なせたみたいじゃないか。ゲナ。
有望なやつはこの程度ではしないよ。
No promising test taker would die from this.
これは争奪戦に見せかけた対人
This is
戦。
a battle
Battle?
masquerading as a competition.
運のうちだ。
Luck is a skill.
運以外でシティレを捕まえた連中もいるようだ。激化するぞ。対人戦が。
Werbel's gonna have to protect that still by himself now, though.
3分の1は残るだろう。その中に電剣は確実にいる。一級魔法使いと比べて
Okay.
遜色はない。
ラオフェンはまだ未熟者でな。魔力の痕跡を残
And you could have followed her.
お前なら容易に追跡できる
Frieren.
はずだ。フリーレン。わしらの世代でその名を知らぬ魔法使いなどいない。直接この目で見るのは初めてだが、一目見て確信した。お前は勇者一行の魔法使い、フリーレンだ。
伝説的な魔法使いだ。もしかしたらとは思う。
Wow.
電剣がお前の足止めをしている間に、俺がそっちのガキ二人、どちらかを殺す。
I don't like that.
パーティーメンバーが欠けて合格条件を満たせなくなれば。
It's like he has this idea that Frieren could probably win, so we have to kill one of these
Yeah.
girls so then she can't win at all. That's fucked.
一級魔法使いに人死にの価値があるとは思えない。
それだけは同意見かな。一級魔法使いなんてただの称号だ。
半世紀以上前に突如として歴史の表舞台に現れ、人類の魔法使いの頂点に君臨した大陸魔法協会の創始者、大魔法使いゼーリ。
To reign over humanity's magic. Oh, fuck!
戦火の時代の洗練された魔法使いを未だに追い求めている。だから彼女は一級魔法使いの座についた者に特権を与えることを約束した。一つだけ望んだ魔法を授けるとな。
She's a collector of spells like Frieren.
A living grimoire.
魔法を網羅する。巨万の富を得ることも、大病を癒すことも、絶大な力を手に入れることだってできる。望んだ魔法が授けられるということは、魔法使いにとって願いが叶うに等しいことだ。おかげで今や一級魔法使いは人外を疑うほどの化け物揃いだ。
Monsters who barely seem
それほど
human.
の価値があ
You
る
get the line that Friren's a monster.
そう。
こいつはわしが叩き潰す。それでよかろう。
バルグラント。
若いやつは血気盛んでいかんな。
No! Okay, that was Frieren Beyond Journey's End, Season 1, Episode 20. The evolution of time is coming back into the story in a way that I didn't expect it to, and that's in the form of the spells and magic themselves, and how they've completely the crossroads, right? So in the idea last episode of Frieren bringing up the folk magic spell that she was aware hunters used when magic was more frequent to capture birds, and then utilizing it on this monster-like bird, right? Frieren came to the conclusion that, oh yeah, if it can work on this, I'm sure that it can work on the still as well, right? But how that coincides with Werbel's spell of it being obviously extremely similar, if not identical, but having to meet different parameters or more specific parameters that we didn't necessarily hear from Frieren, and it being able to, above all else, work on people, humans. Yeah. You know, like, now, there are so many different iterations of that knowledge and that being told to us that I could jump to. It could be that the hunters who originally created the magic, who was that conveyor of the spell to Frieren, had just said it as broadly as we use this to hunt birds, and that was all Frieren ever tested it on, and never tested it on other creatures other than birds, and never tried to test it on a human. Or it could be as the branching of spells really happened, there was able to be things that were tweaked to apply it to different scenarios, because like we're given spell names from all of these interactions, and each names of a spell we don't necessarily hear from Frieren as she's talking about, oh, this one spell from folk magic. So I don't know if it's like, what Frieren Beyond Journey's End has taught me so far about magic within this world is like how specific you get into spells, whether you're seeing through clothes, dissolving clothes, whether you're able to make shaved ice, right? Like, and with the little knowledge we have about how the lack of understanding the base origin of a spell completely coincides with your lack of ability to be able to change it in different ways. It makes me so interested in like the origin of where Warbel you like originally learned this spell,
his binding spell.
Yeah.
And like each spell has which I'm thankful for as a viewer, especially when you have magic, there needs to be parameters. There needs to be things that are weaknesses to spells, so that a mage that is like land, that kind of sits and waits and uses their illusion magic in order to really learn how someone else's magic works, that they can then find those weaknesses. In Ubel and Werbel's fight, both of them are kind of paying attention to each other's choices, how long this fight is taking, where both of them probably should have or could have landed a like kill blow earlier, that they're both kind of learning something about the person, where Belle's learning that Ubel's magic, it's like 5 meters away, and then she can't attack
see the trajectory
anymore.
too, which
Can't
is
see the
wild.
trajectory. Where Belle needs to have his eyes completely on the person that he binds. Another thing that's interesting off of what you said that's shown in this episode is the idea of the kind of inventing that some of these test takers have done to spells, that they've kind of invented their own. We have the idea that Sharf, who is fighting land or lost against land, has kind of invented his own spell that turns petals into like metal shards that will attack you like shrapnel. And Land has this comment about how like it's really, really lacking of fundamentals, which is like brings me back to Frieren kind of talking about how like humans, if they don't understand like all of the kind of intricacies of a spell, the foundation of it, then it'll be very hard for them to kind of either change it, learn it, or perfect it, or shape it in whatever way they want to like adapt it to. So obviously Land finds weakness in Sharf's spell, even if it is kind of flashy and interesting in the moment. And if he was fighting a less observant opponent that didn't have illusion magic, he could have won there, probably.
Yeah. Man. Okay, so Frieren's spell range is 50 centimeters, right? Whereas Warbel's has no such application. Like
it could as long as he can see it.
It's so interesting because before remembering or like realizing of last episode's like specification with Frieren's like 50, how close it needs to be, I was like, I wonder if you are trying to be more vague with your spell, so it doesn't necessarily just have to apply to birds, right? That you would have to sacrifice like something like I have to maintain eye contact. But no, it's not the case. Like there's so much evolution of humanity's magic and give and take from where it derived from in time. It's so interesting, man.
Do you think that because Frieren's spell is more specific, that the more specific and less vague spells not only can be the stronger ones, but also maybe are the ones that have the most parameters to them? Like 5 centimeters is such a small, specific gap, but the spell to bind the
50,
still is incredibly strong. 50
Yeah.
centimeters, something like 50 centimeters. That's a very, very specific and short distance that I feel like maybe it's the more specific the spell is, the more honed in on what exactly you're trying to do with that spell, that would have the parameters be so kind of tight.
I don't know. Because, like, in terms of the strength of the spell, we didn't see Warbel's spell, like, not succeed, right? And
But there still could be a gradient of, like, this binding spell is stronger than this one. It's a bird, a non-magical bird that has been caught here, so.
I'm like, okay, if you're the first person to invent a specific spell, and let's talk about it from, like, if it was existing within our world. If I wanted a spell that, if I wanted to create magic that could make the pen right now float without me touching it, and it wasn't working, for some reason, my next step would be like, okay, well, what if, like, I hold it closer to my face? And then if I was able to somehow succeed in doing it, it would somehow, for some reason, make more sense to me that I would need to practice that ability to be able to hold it and levitate it the further and further it gets away from me. And in terms of Frieren's understanding of the spell, it was told to her and explained to her and created within this closeness of range. And because of the passage of time and the evolution of humanity's magic, it has been able to evolve in that way. But it would also, like, I get what you're saying, that, like, okay, well, would the implication then be that since of what we've learned about magic and how it's, you know, how the building blocks really work, would there be, would it not be as strong, right? But I'm thinking that maybe instead of it not being as strong, there's a chance that that lack of strength would be at the risk of that sustained eyesight, you know? Maybe.
I feel like the eyesight just being the kind of box that needs to be checked for Warbel. I feel like in the future, if we get more of this character and he utilizes this spell again, there are some interesting places you could go with this. Because if you go with eyesight, like, obviously Ubel
It's called
was going,
Suganel, I think.
Ubel was going for the eyes. You know, that was an interesting thing that happened there, that she wasn't going for the kill. She was going to kind of eliminate his usage of this powerful binding spell. But you could continue to play with kind of how characters could strategize against the usage of his eyes. Whether that's someone, you know, creating a darkness, like, you know, almost putting him in a cloud of darkness. You could have things be slung at his face or stuck to his face. I think another interesting place you could go with is how far is it? Like, how far can he see? Like, is it like 20/20 vision, you know? Like, if he could see, how far can he see? That's obviously like a parameter there, is if he can see it, even if it's in the furthest range of his eyesight, he can capture it. Another interesting thing we could go with is there are some, like, kind of mentions of modern technology, but in this magical universe and how it's changed, like photography. Obviously, I don't think binoculars are as incredibly technologically advanced as cameras.
Yeah.
But the idea of, like, could he still capture someone if he was looking through a lens? Like, does it have to be his eyes unfiltered or like not enhanced by anything else? Or could he even extend his what's it called? His
range of visibility.
His range of his ability if he had some sort of binocular. Because then on a battlefield or as an assassin or something, that could be really useful.
I think that, like, I'm still, like, being surprised and obviously I'm underestimating how specific and complex the magic within this world is and exists, because, and God, I love the show for that. I love the universe for that. The idea that, like, I want to know where Warbel learned this spell. You know, I don't think we're going to be told, but the fucking balls to, like, write this spell in a different, like, iteration and way the episode before and giving us the same type of thing with different parameters. I'm like, holy shit. Like, there's so many different iterations of it. There's so many different iterations of, if this spell, why not, you know, every other spell.
And it makes sense if you think about this is humanity's magic. There are people who at some point in time probably had very limited interaction with other groups of people. Like there are people we get this idea of this one character that is from a southern tribe in the mountains that is kind of probably rather isolated. They have this speed spell, and it really just like feeds and brings home that like introductory idea in the series that Frieren is collecting all of these little spells that these little obscure villages have that Fern sees as not being worth anything. Obviously, Fern has been proven wrong at this point that these little spells aren't worth anything. I think she was proven wrong a long time ago about that. But we get the idea brought back to us that all of these groups of people invented their own ways to be able to do things that like bettered their lives or made them more powerful, helped them fight in wars against neighboring nations, helped with their hunting, even helped plant some flowers. That each little group of people has kind of created their own system of their own humanity's magic. And the fact that like there are people in this universe who seek to collect all of those pieces of information, all of those separate inventions.
Yeah.
It's like if you think about it in a modern, like our world context, like think about technological inventions. If we think about inventions in our world, and what if one country didn't have access to like that invention, that technology, but if you passed this test, this person would just hand you that piece of technology, that invention that someone else created that they have now like collected, and you're being given like this like thing that will completely like this motive, this life-changing item, spell, invention that is like filling your greatest desires. And that there's someone in this world other than Frieren that...
Talking about Sari?
Yeah, that is collecting... That has become this ultimate grimoire.
Are you
of
being
spells.
Stingy?
Am I being stingy?
Like, not you as an individual.
I was like, what?
Are you being stingy being a walking grimoire of spells and having such a high prerequisite to be able to offer a spell? Because on one hand... spells can be very dangerous. So if you're just giving anybody a spell that they ask for and they could do immense harm and bad with it, that's one thing. But also, if you're having to risk your life so that you can find a spell to heal your little brother's sickness, I don't know, man.
This also isn't a morality test.
Yeah.
So it's obvious that Sari doesn't care if she gives a deadly spell to someone who's already killed a bunch of people in a test.
Does it imply like a level of I don't know, like a conceitedness of thinking that you are above everyone else and they have to meet a certain standard to even be able to know a spell, you know? Like
I really like this kind of topic that we're going into, because if we think about one of the main characters of this episode and the last, it's Denkin.
Yeah.
It's this character that we've already been told will do anything for a power grab. And we're getting this idea that this elf who has lived a very long time, like Frieren, we've known all these 20 episodes, having just now started to want to interact with humans more. And I say just now because in her lifespan, it's a just now, because a mere 10 years, a mere this many years to her, you know, is little in comparison to the span of her life. She's just now wanting to interact with humans. She's just now taken on an apprentice mage, being Fern. And we have this other elf who is taking over humanity's magic, who is becoming the, like, almost a goddess position. She's
the closest mage in our world to the all-knowing and
all-powerful goddess. She's being put on this pedestal, the human of the humans, as if like a ruler. It feels very much like I see you as beneath me, I want to be powerful, and not like I actually want to help you. But maybe even like, I mean, Frieren has talked about before seeing how the tenacity of the humans and how human magic has learned how to break down demon spells slowly but surely in order to, I mean, one of the first episodes we see that we have been able to defeat a demon because we've broken down how his spell worked, and now we utilize it for ourselves.
Yeah.
And is it someone who just wants to oversee the growth of humanity over their long lifespan and kind of aid in that? Or do they just want to watch the world burn a little bit and have a bunch of people fight each other?
What's your interpretation of the line, she's still searching for mages refined during the long war against the Demon King?
Why would she? Yeah, exactly. Is that what's her goal here? Is to find powerful mages? Why?
And also, you just suddenly appear after the Demon King's gone.
Also, Frieren knows her.
Yeah.
Because Frieren reacted to the name.
Yeah. I don't know, man. On one hand, I'm like,
I'm suspicious.
Frieren wants to see spells. She wants to know spells. This sounds like a best friend, you know? But on the other hand, I just don't, in terms of the motive that we're given by Richter, right?
Yeah.
That's his name? It's not clear enough to me through searching for mages, what the purpose here is.
It's too much like, it's giving me, I have an ant farm and I'm shaking it up. It's giving me Frieren's like, oh, you want to know a spell? I can teach it to you. I can tell you. And Sari is like, oh, the humans are so little ants on my lifespan, and they just run around trying their best, and for entertainment I can kind of shake their world up a little bit. They want something I have. Let's see what lengths they'll go to achieve greatness and get something from me.
Yeah.
And it feels much more like someone holding an ant farm and flooding it with water and shaking it up. I'm suspicious. I don't know if I'm gonna obviously, after this discussion, kind of drop any current bias that's being created of my suspicion of this character, because that's not gonna be fruitful going forward to always feel like this character might end up being nefarious or not kind actually to humans. But at the moment I'm leaning toward it.
I'm just inquisitive about them. And obviously it's easy to make the connection of, oh, we knew an elf that Frieren fought against, right? Why would that fight have happened? Why would you just come out after the Demon King? But if Sari's so... Does Sari already know that Frieren's here taking this exam? I have so many questions in regards to Sari that I don't know where to begin.
As soon as I get an idea that a character in a universe is being equated to an omnipotent being and being compared to a god or goddess, I am immediately going to be a little bit on edge and wary of that character.
But people's actions aren't necessarily derived from somebody's intention to make them react that way.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, and I need to know what her intentions are, if any, if she's just fucking bored. Who knows?
I mean, I wouldn't... if I lived this long, I might be bored too.
Okay. If I'm gonna be blunt, my easy assumption is, oh, there's age and a lot of time passing in terms of themes in Frieren Beyond Journey's End. And who else is an elf just like Frieren? Fucking potentially Sari. If you've lived this long, are you going to have a superiority complex over people who don't live nearly as long and think you're better? So you're going to watch them fight in front of you for, just a sense of out of a sense of boredom. But I don't like solidifying myself within that potential assumption.
Right. But it is a place for your mind to go to when you get this idea of a character who far outlives
Yeah.
a human life, and because they can outlive it, like the demons, their magic can become even stronger because they have more time to hone their skills. We've already now been given 2 kind elves.
Yeah.
Because we have Craft the monk. We have 2 elves that kind of somewhat live amongst humanity in a kind way, and in a I see you as, you know, a living creature worthy of life way. Even if I far surpass you in talent, prowess, age, everything. So because we've already had 2 examples of a character that is in that position of power and age, I feel like inevitably you'd think that the other side of the coin would need to be shown.
Yeah. You know who's awesome? Zenze. Zenze might be my favorite character in Frieren Beyond Journey's End.
The design is one of... I love when there's, like, hair covering someone's face a little bit.
I don't have. Sometimes you can't explain feelings.
Okay, yeah, that is true. Sometimes you can't, like, put it into words, articulate yourself.
Or there are no words that have been created yet.
There are no words to describe.
Yeah, you know.
He didn't.
Another cool character I really like is Aerie, the person who fought Fern.
Mm-hmm.
Last episode, like, I definitely took what they said about Warbel, about, like, oh, Warbel's, you know, his type of magic is devoid of character, and I'm like, oh, whoa, what does that fucking mean, right? But then in the fight with Fern, when talking about Fern's, like, attacks, and I think that she even used, like, a saturation attack when there was a bunch of different...
That's how she phrased it.
Yeah.
I loved the usage of, like, the word choice. The saturation
but
of it.
It's not there, too. I love her word choice going forward, because she uses character, again, about Fern's magic. It doesn't have a shred of character. Like, I'm like... every single character, as background as they might feel, because that's what I'm used to having these characters be in different animes, they all have so much personality. Like, I don't know these characters at all. And when Aerie is like, Warbel, carry me, dude. Like, I know, wait, no, carry me on your back. And then we get the whole thing with Sharf being like, please, like I love them.
Tear too.
Every character in this universe I love, and they have so much personality and individualism.
I think that's it's really interesting that to them, to humanity's magic, it really makes you think of the mind of, like, a creative. Like, wouldn't you want to take something and make it your own and show your individualism? Like, all of these people are kind of creating their arsenal and having it fit them and how they want to fight. They're inventing their own spells. This line.
Yep.
This
what
is
Ubel says.
Being binded, and she says, I think the magic a person specializes in is strongly related to their life and nature.
I think that's more characteristic of humans versus elves, because
Fern has learned how an elf thinks about magic.
And, like, throughout, like, we've obviously, through Fern's development, learned what Frieren prioritizes and thinks as an elf. We don't have a great understanding of what a human being would look at the magic through the lens of. And the idea that it's like, oh yeah, I think the magic of a person specializes is strongly related to their life and nature. That feels like such, like, a human being type of way of, like, looking at things. That's like fucking astrological signs. That's awesome.
And then it would make sense that if you heard your grandpa would, as Aerie says about Fern, that Fern fights like her, like, grandpa or something, that of course an older generation would be like, but the ordinary offensive basic magic is just fine, is strong enough, you'd still be able to win if you practice that. It's like, no, grandpa, I want to, like, live my own life and specialize in something that interests me and, like, feels like it fits me. Like, I'm gonna dress how I want to dress and, like, portray myself the way that I want to portray myself.
Were you expecting a kill this episode?
Yes.
I'm glad it didn't happen. For a second, you were quick to it. For a second, I was like, yo, Fern really fucking killed her. And then, like, just Fern's a great liar, you know? But by the nature of the title of the episode, I was like, oh, somebody's gonna die here.
Yeah.
That I was on the edge of my seat every fight and interaction we had this episode.
Werbel is by current out of all of the, honestly, I do love all of the new additions, all of these test takers that were more highlighting these 3 teams, 4 teams specifically that we're highlighting. I really do love all of the characters so far, and I really like Werbel, so I think he's the top out of all of them. But Lan's illusion magic and the fact that he was just sitting and watching.
Yeah, since the start of the test.
I love characters. I love characters that pay attention to others, are strategizing, are not doing needless work.
Yeah. See, I like Land because he made me correct. I was an idiot and I was like, oh, it's like a clone. And then Sharf was like, oh, it's illusion magic. And I was like, fuck, you're right, it is illusion magic. And then Land was like, well, it has substance.
It's like a clone.
It's basically a clone. I'm like, oh, you're great.
And
Thank you.
backstory-wise, if we think about how Ubel, we just talked about the line of someone's magic is what they specialize in, says something about their nature and their life. Land literally says, I don't trust people.
Yeah.
That's why this is his, the magic he specializes in. That's why he's created something where he can be an observer without kind of other people knowing that he is doing this.
Yeah.
That he's tricking people in order to, test them, in order to see if he can trust them.
To connect what I was saying a minute ago with, the potential of Sari doing this out of boredom and fun, the idea of letting humans be the proctors, letting what you've deemed first class or above, they can be the proctors of the exams, lends itself to the idea that Genna had the line of dialogue with Zenzei of, looks like you killed a few promising test takers again. That wasn't based off of Sari's prerequisite of this challenge.
It's how Genna decided to run his test.
It didn't need to happen. And the idea that this person has that power, I don't know, shady.
I am excited for the second test purely because of the proctor.
Me too.
I'm excited to see whatever test that she will concoct. It's obvious that she's able to, with her mana, completely disguise it because, we've seen with Frieren, the still lands on Frieren's shoulder. We get multiple shots of the still, landing on Sensei's head and, shoulder and hand. Obviously very powerful people, but I'm also excited. Now we know these first-class mages that are proctors, they've all already been given the privilege. What did they ask for?
We get the silhouetted shot with looked like
one
wings.
has wings.
Yeah. I don't know.
What did they ask for?
Are you at all scared for Lavina and Kane and their well-being?
Well, I mean, how much can we actually trust that Richter is not gonna do what he already wanted to do and he's actually gonna listen to Denkin?
Denkin's so fascinating.
I don't think that either of them would die, and I'm honestly glad that they're together against Richter because we've already seen that they fight really well together. Their magic goes really well together, and they're a good team, and they bounce off of each other, and they notice things about each other. They fought together before, so I think that they could put up a fight as long as there's water.
What's the actual term for the pendant that Frieren has?
The Holy Emblem.
Holy Emblem. Do you think that there was a reward that those with the Holy Emblem got that would be similar to the fact that if you obtain this, you can ask Sari for any one spell? Or do you think the Holy Emblem was more pure in the sense that it was bestowed on somebody? Because adding in the reward factor for the classification of achieving a certain class of mage adds in what the incentive and motive for anybody taking the test would be as well.
I'm gonna go with just out of context clues, Frieren's it's not just a title, To me,
Yeah.
that means the Holy Emblem was just a title. It was, as she said, as we're leaving the gates of Graf Granite's territory, she's like, the humans have always been creating new kind of forms and ways to kind of create a magic system or check a magic
The
system.
fact that a human didn't create this one, sorry.
And that for all that time, I would then kind of guess that these are all just new ways to classify. That it's all just a title, but now we have incentive and reward and greed involved, and we're kind of playing on kind of the negative side of humans, which we get this idea of like demons being the most evil in this universe and the ones that will trick and toy with others. But we also know that like humans, if something have kind of so tasty and rewarding is put in front of them, what would they do to obtain that? Would they kill? Would they cheat?
I wonder, like, I feel like after seeing what Zensei's test is going to be, I would like to come up with what my test would be. I feel like I couldn't do that now because I only have Genna's, like...
his battle.
Yeah. And like and I think it's really like interesting because it definitely does unveil the motive of each person and how they perceive like how to win here, right? Because you're right, like they're right in the sense you kill one person on one team, they're fucked.
Mm-hmm.
They're out of it.
Quick question before like we close out. Do you think that there is a reason that the rain has continuously been brought up from outside of the barrier?
Other than the water with the still like thing that's been brought up over the last few episodes, is there another reason?
Yeah. Why are we continuously having characters recognize that it's raining outside of the barrier?
I think that like the awareness of like, oh, what's that sound? Like when these characters are realizing it, or if they feel like they need to verbally point it out, is more of like a statement on their awareness and abilities and potential and like current level as a mage. I think it's more of a talking on that.
Interesting.
Versus anything. And I only say that I don't think it's anything else because I think there's only like 3 hours left in the exam.
Yeah, I feel like that, I like what you said. That makes a lot of, in terms of like, if there's no theorizing happening here, I think that that's a really good place to go to, that it could just be more of a testament to their kind of, as we said, this test is a test of mana usage disguised, you know, that it's actually a battle disguised as like a mana usage test.
Yeah.
And that kind of realizing and being aware of your surroundings. We have people who have already died to the swirling monsters in the sky above them. That it could just be kind of showing us the skill levels and kind of the age situation. How green are they in comparison to how mature or seasoned they are with, you know, their magic. But I think another place, if I'm going to Theory Town, would be, we have, with Richter and the girls, we have been blasted into the air on this rock. We have already wiped out the water everywhere.
Yeah.
If they are going to fight him and they're so close to the sky, did we blast off with the pond included on the piece of land that was blasted into the air or not? Because if they don't have water, I don't see how they're gonna fight.
That's a really good point. Maybe they could utilize the rain if
that's the
that
only
could be,
theory I would have.
but that would have
up
to
the rain more.
incorporate opening, like, okay, what I think you're bringing up, I'm glad that you brought this up because I'm like, okay, we've touched upon killing and what that could mean. We've obviously touched upon capturing a still. There's that third, not leaving a barrier, that hasn't been brought up. Out of Richter or any of the girls, sorry,
Kane and
Lavine. Yeah, sorry, Lavine's pronunciation. I want to make sure that I'm trying to get it right. But Lavine and Kane, I think that there is a chance that since they are being risen up, there's a chance that one of them could go out the top of the barrier and be disqualified.
I think that because that was posed as one of the disqualifications,
Yeah.
I feel like now that we've already seen the other issues be brought up if you don't catch a still, if one of your party members, like if you don't come back as an intact team.
Yeah.
There was a third, and it
Mhm.
was not leaving the range of this test.
Interesting.
And I just feel like because we've seen the other two be talked about so heavily and even be happening to knock out other teams, we need to talk about that third one being a possibility. But that is
Man.
all that I have.
I fucking hate seeing depictions of little kids being set into war.
Oh,
to
wait, yeah,
fucking-
we didn't even talk about
to-
that.
to,
That
like,
was effed.
And like the awareness of why people do it. And like you could just see the look on their face. God, that fucking sucks.
See, they really did something dirty to me there, because I was like laughing inside my head at first when we get that shot of Werbel on the, like, you know, leading the lines of the fighters, and it's one of those, oh, can you spot the main character in the room? You know, and you like the classroom scene and you see someone with like Yu-Gi-Oh hair
Yeah.
over in a corner, and then it was like, oh, here's all the children with swords that were fighting, and I was like, oh, I'm not laughing anymore.
One last thing, I love the connection of Werbel and Eri, like the saving of a
Mhm.
town. I don't think Eri or anybody else that we've seen is the girl that Werbel had a crush on. I don't think, but I did like the connection between Werbel and Eri.
I like the
Eri.
idea that we could see whoever that is, because that is what he has said is his motive, his ulterior motive, his reason for doing things, even though he can't remember her face anymore. And what does that bring us to? We already have seen a character who can't remember his love's face anymore, but he still does what he's promised to her
Yeah.
all this time. And I don't know, the hair color was similar to Sensei, so
Yeah. All right. That's all I have you.
yes.
Thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we hope to see you next time.